All right, welcome everyone. It's 2022, specifically January 4th, and Sherwood City Council's meeting in a work session to talk about the idea of becoming an age-friendly city. Maya, you like to lead us off, or should Campbell or Switzer say something first?
I'll just say I'm thrilled to have Maya here this evening to talk to us about becoming an age-friendly city, and she's prepared a presentation. It was shared, so you may have seen it already, but she has some information to add along with that. So I'll just turn it over to her.
Great.
All right, and thank you for having me to speak to you guys on the topic of possibly becoming an age-friendly city. Something that I'm sure you can guess is close to my heart, and I'm happy to be representing the Senior Advisory Board this evening. So let's see if I can share my screen. It's always a fun moment trying to make that happen. All right, can everybody see that all right?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, age-friendly cities. So as the WHO says in their guide for age-friendly cities, in practical terms, an age-friendly city adapts its structures and services to be accessible to and inclusive of older people with varying needs and capacities, and in so doing, providing for the needs of community members of all ages. The Senior Advisory Board asks us to take up this initiative of mindful planning and decision-making to ensure that older adults are able to thrive and participate in the Sherwood community. The board believes that doing the work and participating in the AARP and World Health Organization's global network of age-friendly communities will lead to a healthier, stronger community, as well as prepare for demographic shifts over the coming decades. It requires listening to and including older adults in the decisions that affect their lives, creating action items from older adults, expressed needs, and following through on those actions. The Age-Friendly City Initiative came after a worldwide study of how older adults live and thrive in urban environments. This resulted in what we now have as the Age-Friendly City designation, a program and a process to help guide cities to level the functional urban age gap and allow for equitable urban living for people of all ages. The Senior Advisory Board sees this process as a valuable way to ensure that older adults are part of the planning of Sherwood's future, and looks forward to hopefully working with City Council and staff to designate Sherwood as an age-friendly city. So there are 8 categories that are elemental to living in a city, as you can see here. I'll now kind of go through each one of these categories and address how they tie into an age-friendly city. So outdoor places and buildings. Think of how you exist in your urban environment, in the Sherwood built landscape. Are there services that are commonly utilized, accessible to older adults? Can you reach services without the use of a car? Can you move freely through the city with lower vision? Reach services with lower vision, decreased hearing, difficulty walking? City elements such as clean and pleasant public space, labeled pedestrian crossings that have non-slip markings, video and audio cues, and adequate crossing times, as well as the rest of these examples, are how an urban environment can accommodate their aging residents. Transportation. How do we move around Sherwood? This is a topic that I know you guys have heard about, and you know that I have heard about frequently here at the Senior Center. Sherwood is viewed as difficult to live in by a percentage of our older adult population because of the inability to comfortably get from one place to another. This is a reason mentioned for people moving away from their homes here and away from Sherwood. Each one of these examples that are listed here are ways that we can make Sherwood more habitable for the aging residents. Housing. Housing is always a topic and was a notable aspect of the Sherwood 2040 Comprehensive Plan. Older adults here want to age in place. They want to stay in their homes and they want to stay in Sherwood. We have some great ADU municipal codes, but an age-friendly city also needs plenty of affordable, well-maintained, and accessible housing that's close to services. As we have become painfully aware over the last months and years of the pandemic, social participation is integral to a thriving and healthy life. This is also true of our older adult population. Sherwood has wonderful civic events and activities, and an age-friendly hosts these events while also keeping accessibility in mind. Are there events that are held at times that people feel comfortable commuting? Are there accessible parking and transportation options to the events? Is there sufficient lighting, seating, and public restrooms for the attendees of all ages and abilities? Ageism and isolation are driving factors in older adult depression and declining health. Civic recognition of the value of older adults in the community helps to combat this by providing community recognition and involvement for older adults, as well as providing venues for older adults to participate in building and supporting the community that they live in. This ties into civic participation and employment. As you can see with the volunteers at the senior center and throughout the city, as well as older adult participation in city boards and committees, Sherwood has a pretty hands-on and involved older adult population. This involvement is integral to an age-friendly city, as older adults have a voice that directly expresses their needs and wants for their city. Accessibility, an age-friendly city makes sure to utilize methods of communication to people of all ages and abilities. An age-friendly city has open and easy access to information materials, including the internet. Accessibility to health services is also important to all and is integral to an age-friendly city. Information on how to access health services is easy to locate, as well as distributed both visually and audibly. An age-friendly city also has specific information and access to specialists and social services for older adults. It is also important to include the needs of older adults when making community emergency plans. Okay, so what does this mean for Sherwood? How does this work? As I mentioned earlier, this designation is part of a process, a 5-year process to be specific. It consists of the formation of a board to include older adults in the civic process, which we have already done by the formation of the Senior Advisory Board. It also requires a community needs assessment. This community needs assessment, most of this work has been completed already through the preparation for the Sherwood 2040 Comprehensive Plan. In fact, most of the designation work has been identified in the comprehensive plan thanks to the hard work of city development staff, volunteers, and others. And many of these livability ideals are part of the goals of the comprehensive plan. The next step would be to formally submit an application to AARP and the WHO to officially begin this process. This application would need to include a letter of support from the mayor and/or city council, and would establish the mechanisms to involve older adult people in the process, provide a baseline assessment of the current age friendliness of this community, illustrate the development of community-wide action plan, and the identification of indicators so we can measure our progress. Council can optionally also pass a resolution or make a proclamation of the city's intent to be an age-friendly city, if you want to. We would then go ahead and submit our application with the letter and continue the work to make Sherwood a thriving environment for all ages. The city of Sherwood has already made great strides to recognize and address the needs of our aging residents. It would be a wonderful opportunity to officially recognize this work that is being done as a city and community, while driving grant opportunities and being part of a wider network of communities who value the residents of all ages. We've got a lot of templates to work with, a lot of tools. Let's get this done and let's start participating in the age-friendly network. Do you guys have any questions? I feel like I need more jazz hands or like exploding little poppers going off behind me. Song and dance. I can't hear you, Keith.
Yes.
Mayor May, sorry.
Yes, I said great things, but now I'll rethink
I'm sure you
that.
did.
Thank you for the presentation. It's, as was my assumption too, a lot of the work that's suggested we've done. We have done a lot of the analysis.
Yeah, we have great scaffolding from the work of the 2040 comprehensive plan, going through that and comparing it to the examples of the questions that we would need to ask as part of our setup process. There was a lot of crossover, which is going to make the setup of this much easier to accomplish.
Questions for Maya?
Hey, Maya, when you said that there's data that shows that seniors are moving out of the community because of, those things that you mentioned, did we do a poll or something, or was that part of the 2040 plan surveys and stuff?
That's mainly anecdotal from what I hear from the seniors who've been moving away from the senior center in this community when I've called up to follow up and see how they're doing and so forth, or as they're getting ready to make those plans. And also is data that transportation needs and older adult livability statistics are a driving factor in seniors moving to or away from cities based on where they fall in that spectrum.
Yeah, I definitely don't doubt that. I just was curious how we came up with that. Thanks.
Yeah. The WHO actually just published their 2021 report on seniors' feelings towards livability and so forth and what drives that movement.
Other questions?
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say good job, Maya. Thanks for representing the advisory board so well. There's a lot of enthusiasm definitely in the group to see us move forward with this.
There are, the group is really excited, and every meeting we're checking in and seeing where we are in this process and seeing if we're able to move forward. So thank you very much for having me tonight.
Sean.
I said a question, I guess. I'm looking for an update. As I recall, as one of the recent grants that we did, CEP grants, there was a transportation van, right? We were looking to do. How is that coming along? Because I think, when we talk about transportation, I think that was a key factor in the decision to award that money. So just kind of interested in how that's come along, if anybody has an update.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to include a picture of a van in that slide because that's going to be a big part of the solution for a lot of that, I feel. So the van has been ordered, but with kind of the joys of waiting for items to arrive in the country these days, we don't know when it's going to get here. So it's been ordered and we're kind of in a holding waiting pattern. Kristen, have you heard any updates on that?
I have not, but I do see Craig's on the line, not to put you on the spot, Craig, but I don't know if you might have an update on timeline for the van.
I can give you the last update. We're hoping to have it by the end of this budget year. The bigger issue is the small businesses that do the ADA ramp, they will not order the ADA items until the van arrives because they've been stuck with too many costs. So once we get it, it's still going to be a while to wait to get that constructed before the van gets installed in the van. So I don't blame them because as a small business, it's a lot of money that goes out for that stuff. So we're finding that a lot in any equipment we're getting. So hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Craig, on the ADA ramp, even if we paid for it in advance, they wouldn't get it ordered? Or was that not something we would do?
I would rather not do that. You get the van here and for some reason it doesn't fit in the specs, or it's a big fight at the end is what the agencies are doing too. So
yeah,
that's where we're at.
Okay.
Other questions?
Maybe just a comment and maybe a question. I guess we're about to have our visioning session here in February. So I think that it would be a great time to talk about this as part of, because that's where we kind of set the overall priorities for the city. And in prep for that, I'd be really interested this was very high level and I really appreciate the presentation and the information, but it would be interesting to know some more, like a more concrete plan of, what the steps are, what are the costs involved? Are there options? Thank you. That's awesome. And what are our options to kind of hit some of the goals we're talking to? AARP is a great organization. WHO, that kind of threw me for a curveball because, I can see why they're involved with something with us like this, now I think about it, but are there other options to kind of take us down the same path, and what are different, because I think at the end, I want to speak for everyone here. We all want to make sure that we're age accessible and our seniors have a wonderful experience living and aging in Sherwood. And but what are there different options that we can take to to kind of address this and make sure we're doing all the right things. Because you said a couple of things that really resonated with me, like simple things like the timing on a stoplight, for someone to cross the street. I hadn't even thought about that. I've been thinking about it a lot in terms of kids crossing to get to the high school on 99, but those are important little things. So I have to believe there's best practices, documents out there that we can start sharing with our planning department immediately, and maybe we already have them. But it'd be interesting to know, what some of the other paths and options are to kind of achieve the same thing.
Sure. The main ones really are through this age-friendly initiative. The scaffolding is there, whether you do the official application or not. It was started back in 2006 with the WHO recognizing that the move to urban environments for older adults and looking how that they can make that work. So yeah, there's best practices that have come out of that process with I believe there's 2,600 cities and municipalities in the US that have adopted this. And they all have examples of how this worked for them, the process they went through, the steps that can be used as part of the toolkit that we can make sure that the city of Sherwood is able to do the same thing. And the two things that I held up, one was an age-friendly cities guide that just kind of gives an overview of what it means. And the next is an in-depth toolkit on where to look, what to do, how to measure, to make sure that best practices are implemented in planning and decision making.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to.
That answers your question.
No, it does. Thank you very much. It'd be great to see some of that before our visioning session and just to kind of understand it a little bit better. Because it's a general theme when it comes to anything like this. When we talk about studies and projects, there's so much we can learn from cities that have already done it.
Mm-hmm.
There's sometimes and I'm not saying we're doing this here, but just as kind of a general theme, cities feel like they have to go out and learn it all themselves. And so I just want to make sure that we're taking advantage of all those good learnings, because we have a lot of, especially around us. Do we have any cities around us that are doing this?
We do actually.
Yeah.
Portland was the first one.
There's a list on the website on AARP under Oregon. There are 10: Ashland, Newburgh, Salem, Talent. They're all listed there.
Oh, awesome.
And
Yeah.
as Maya
Newburgh-
indicated, if you click on the name of the city, like Hood River, it says Hood River's action plan. It's all listed there. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's scaffolding that I was talking about. There's so many examples of people in cities that have come before that we have a lot of ways to look at ways to approach this.
Awesome.
Hey, Maya, quick question. Do you know what the livability index score that they give each of these cities? Is it good if it's high, if it's low?
High is good.
Okay. All right. I just want to know. Yeah.
And I can send the links to you. I can either send the link or give you printed copies depending on what you prefer.
The link's fine.
What's that?
The link's fine.
The link's fine. Okay. And that it goes into that, what that means, what the scores mean, how they break down, how they're weighted, all that sort of stuff.
And one last question is the WHO and AARP's focus, it's definitely just on seniors, because the intro slide talked about all ages.
And that's the idea is that if a municipality is livable and comfortable and safe for older adults, it is comfortable for people of all abilities and ages, because when you go to one side, you're going to take care of everything in between.
Does this mean we'll have a teenage pickleball tournament?
I might stand further back, but
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
yeah, of course.
Excellent. Any other questions? Yeah, we certainly want our community to be age friendly for everyone. And which is why we've done the steps we've done to this point, and let's see about next steps from here. So excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Maya.
Thank you.
And that is the only topic for our short half-hour work session. So we're gonna have a 5-minute break or 7-minute break before we have our regular city council meeting.